What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I am your host, Chris Raybon. This is your NFL Week 9 player projection episode. As always, I'm joined by one of the most accurate rankers in the game, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, how's it going?
Pretty good. Had a good week and glad we finally got some clarity on the Diontae Johnson news and landing spot. He's heading to Baltimore. Any initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he'll probably not be as consistent as, in Carolina, he was actually, just because he was that alpha dog, it might have spoiled us a little. I think this might be a little bit more up and down, but it's Lamar Jackson's so good. It's just that Baltimore has weeks where they just blow people out and they're going to run the ball. So, but I think it makes them more dangerous come playoff time. But I'm also a little worried for them just because last year in the playoffs, what did they do? Abandon the run when, and now it's like they're going to have just more ammo to do that, which I mean, it's a good thing. I'm just kind of half joking, but I think it's a better move for the player and the team than it is for fantasy because it's now probably going to cut into Zay a little bit. Mark Andrews is going to be frustrating. And Isaiah Likely probably goes back to near irrelevancy again. So it's a little tough for fantasy.
Yeah, no, every week we say Mark Andrews is going to be a nightmare, and then he goes off for a good game. So,
he's still running the same amount of routes. He did get up to like 74% last week, but yeah. All right, we'll get into our top 5 at each position. Guys are high and low on, do a prop as well. But before we get started here and talk all things NFL, a reminder that Sean and I have teamed up with DraftKings, and they've got a new way to play fantasy basketball and win cash prizes. That's called DraftKings Pick 6. Sean, you and I, big NBA fans, so we're all over Pick 6. This is how it works. You pick 2 to 6 NBA players, and you choose if they have more or less of a stat. Points, rebounds, assists, all that stuff you would see in the normal box score. You lock in a lineup and compete against opponents for a shot at huge cash prizes. Now, DraftKings Pick 6 works a little bit differently because unlike some other games, it's a peer-to-peer situation. So that changes the way I approach making my pick sets. I approach it aggressively because player projections are my passion. So seek out the biggest prize payout potential. That's going to come with larger pick sets. And I'm going to assume that's going to come with leaning towards going below player stat projections because we know more thans tend to be very popular. Right, Sean?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the strategy on this kind of lends itself to our the way we project and the way you kind of handle, cash GPP in DFS is you're looking for some leverage. So I think going against the grain a bit, maybe going with less than makes sense. When it comes to my projections, I'm factoring in a ton of regression. So you'll have a guy that maybe he's had more than his, stat in 5 of the last 5 games, and I'll actually show value on his less than. And I think in a contest like this, that's going to lend yourself even better to have some leverage on not only like a good projection, but also going against the grain. So I think it kind of suits to, what we do really well.
Yeah, exactly. And in the NBA, there's always shooters who are going to regress. So I think some less than's make a lot of sense. So this week, I am going to focus mostly on some less than's for NBA, but looking forward to talking more Pick 6 with you in the weeks ahead. I know we're just getting into it. And a reminder, if you want to play too, you want to download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. And right now, new customers can play $5 on their first pick set and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. You just download that DraftKings Pick 6 app and use promo code FLEX6 at sign up. That's promo code FLEX and the number 6. All right, let's get into our NFL player projections for Week 9. Quarterback, Sean, who you got in the top 5?
I got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, and Joe Burrow.
I got Hurts, Allen, Lamar, Jaden Daniels, and Sam Darnold, baby.
Woo! Top 5. Love it.
Oh, yeah. All right. Who are you high on?
I'm high on Geno Smith at home against the Rams. He's my QB9 to open the week. And, normally he's on that QB1, 2 cusp, but not this week. He's in my top 10. I think he should bounce back after just, a rough game against the Bills, where I think he was impacted by the weather a bit. They had it like 2nd and goal, and they had a snap fly way over his head just due to the rain, knocked them back 20 yards, so they couldn't even try for a touchdown. I think that probably cost Geno a touchdown. Should be getting, DK Metcalf back this week. That's massive. And I just think this is a great spot against the Rams to potentially have a top 10 week. So, yeah, he opens the week as my QB9.
Yeah, I think it's probably more Metcalf than anything. I mean, that's just it's easier to guard, Tyler Lockett. And Smith and Jigba really, he can get catches, but he's, for whatever reason, they haven't been using him downfield. So, I mean, maybe it's the Geno thing too. Maybe that's just, they're just not on the same page as much. I remember him catching a downfield touchdown, but it was with Drew Lock, if I remember correctly, for Smith and Jigba. So I don't know if it's him and Geno thing or what, but he just seems more comfortable throwing to other guys downfield, and then JSN's kind of the underneath guy. So I think Metcalf is really the key here for Geno. I'm high on Darnold, as I mentioned. This guy gets TJ Hawkinson back now. He's been QB fantasy QB1 all season long. And this is another good matchup for him indoors against the Indianapolis Colts, who, they got, DeForest Buckner back, but in general, still a weak pass defense. And also defense, I think, is fairly easy to prepare for because Gus Bradley still is going to live and die by those cover 3 principles, middle of the field close, which, most of the NFL is kind of gravitating toward middle of the field open with 2 deep safeties, and you're going to have more, you're going to limit explosive plays. So we'll see if Gus kind of switches it up. But from what I've seen, he's been, and this has been a defense that's, gotten lit up. So I think Darnold and this Vikings offense will be able to go to work here. Okay. Who are you low on this week at quarterback?
Jared Goff. He's my QB 17, and he's having an unreal year. He's so friggin' efficient in this offense. But this is still, a very run-heavy team. He himself has 0 rushing upside. And he's going to be without, Jameson Williams and those explosive plays for at least one more game as he wraps up his suspension. And this is the rare road outdoor game for Goff this year. So I know you've talked about that in the past, but his efficiency does, take a bit of a hit outdoors. Maybe this version of Goff won't, but either way, it's enough for me to just bump him down a bit. Still, he's a solid QB2 option, but I would just lower expectations a bit this week.
Yeah, I still have him a little high. I still have him on that QB1 cusp, but it's a little scary just because he threw for 85 yards last week. Thank goodness he had 3 touchdowns. But I don't think the Lions are blowing out the Packers. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think the Packers will give him a game. So that should at least keep him in contention. But you're right, he's always a guy I'm wary of when he's playing outdoors because the splits are pretty stark for him. So. And just road games, period. Not going to be in Detroit this week, so definitely knocked down a little bit. Speaking of knocked down, CJ Stroud, if you're starting him, you got to get plans to get him out of your lineup. He's down at QB 21 for me. He's just at this point, a guy who's operating not at full strength around him. He's got no Nico Collins still for what looks like one more week, and then Stephon Diggs goes down with a season-ending ACL injury, and you're playing a Jets team that, in theory, their strength is still, those corners, that defense. They've been getting pressure, so this is a spot where, as well as Joe Mixon is playing, the Jets have been struggling against the run. It's a short week. I think we know what the game plan is going to be for Houston at this point. Run Joe Mixon 30 times if you can. Escape with a win, and then kind of regroup. So CJ Stroud is a no-go this week. Once he gets Nico back, I think that's when he'll really start to take off again. All right, what are you doing for the prop?
We're going Joe Flacco passing yards, taking over for the struggling Anthony Richardson, and this is kind of a weird matchup. He's at Minnesota, who have, good defense, but they do give up, a ton of passing production. So as always, the Colts pass catchers, they get a huge boost whenever Flacco's in there. So they all get a massive boost. Just really curious to hear where you're, projecting Flacco with his passing yards to open the week. So I'm going to set a line at Man, I really have been struggling with this. I'm going to set it at 249.5. Let's go.
I'll go over. I actually have it right there, right at 250. But
Oh, okay.
you know, that's the opening week projection, and you gotta factor in that the Colts tend to be even more pass heavy with Flacco. So there's probably some more adjustments I still have to make, to that, and also it looks like the receivers are healthy. Pittman, I think the back injury might be affecting him more than he's letting on, but he's still statistically just been a lot better. With Flacco, I like what I'm seeing out of Josh Downs. So, and you're right, Minnesota, they have a good defense, but they are one of those defenses that plays aggressively. So they're going to get sacks and they're going to get interceptions, but there's going to be plays where the blitz doesn't get home and got somebody single covered deep, and we know Flacco will just kind of chuck it and duck. So, and he's not going to scramble, right? So that just helps his passing yard. So that is a good line, but I'm guessing he goes over that, in an nice indoor environment. They could be behind. And, remember, I know Jonathan Taylor is back, but this is a 45-44 game. It was some crazy last time these two teams played a couple years ago. So, we've seen this before from them.
Well, never say he's not going to scramble, because Kirk Cousins just scrambled for
I saw that.
It was
20? I thought it was 13. No, it was 20?
It felt like 20. I watched it unfold. I saw the coverage go back, and he had no one open, and he's like, all right, let's do this. I saw it unfold 5 seconds before he got past the line of scrimmage, and he made it at least 10 yards, but probably just short of 15.
And it was funny because he was looking bad early in the game. Like he had a sack or two where he just didn't move at all. And I think they even put a graphic up, like he stayed in the pocket 98%, some crazy number of percent of the time.
He set the record of next gen stats tracking history of the least travel in a pocket in a game. So but he had to show everybody. So if he's a weapon on the ground, man. No, just kidding. Maybe we'll get his prop back up to 1.5 now. Could you imagine?
I hope under less than. All right, let's go to running back. Who you got in the top 5?
Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, and Derrick Henry.
I got Kyron Williams, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Saquon, and Joe Mixon. So nice. Sounds like the same, just different order. Who are you high on running back this week?
I'm high on Nick Chubb this week. He looked solid last week. He had 16 carries, 52 yards against a tough Ravens run defense. You've mentioned this is pass funnel defense, but he looked good against them, and he's going to benefit. The more action he gets, the more work. He's just going to get better and better. Maybe he'll never regain his form before the scary injury last year, but he's looking like his usual self. So while this is still a tough matchup against the Chargers, I think it's just Jameis Winston lifts up the entire offense, so he should have more touchdown upside. And it was kind of surprising to see he played the 2-minute offense. So Nick Chubb was like the pass catching back. You wouldn't know because he didn't catch a ball, but that underlying usage allows him to get 2-3 catches a game going forward. So imagine we start getting that with Nick Chubb, on the ground as well. So he's my RB22 to open the week.
I was gonna say, whoa,
love it. Kind of reliving the old days there, but he's my RB22 to open the week, and just the needle's pointing up on him and this entire offense to boot. And the other guys, Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy was placed in the concussion protocol. Usually players miss at least one game, especially since, they played Monday night. So I think we'll see Singletary get the start here with Eric Gray mixing in. But, Singletary has a good matchup here against Commanders. Should provide, RB3 flex value this week. And then once, Tracy's back next week, he'll probably be just a bench stash, if that. But good 1-week rental with Devin Singletary here. So he opens the week as my RB28.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing because I wish Tracy had just not got that concussion, because he was actually giving some life to the Giants. But now we got Singletary back.
Yep.
I'm high on Kareem Hunt. I feel like this is something we're starting to say every week, but Kareem Hunt he's an RB1 at this point. He's still being rated as an RB2 in consensus at number 16. I think that, you just look at the usage and he's just getting the carry totals that other guys aren't getting these days in the NFL. It was 14 in his first game, then 27, 22, 21. Now, maybe it's because they kind of picked him up off the street. They don't really care if they're running him into the ground, but this is also a team that's been playing good defense. They've committed to the run. So I like Kareem Hunt in this spot. Edwards-Helaire obviously is not a factor. They're kind of healthy scratching him. They are healthy scratching him. At least they've done that up to this point. Carson Steele really is not mixing in much. And P. Ryan does get a couple of, passing down kind of 2-minute things, but it's been the Hunt show for the most part in this backfield. Yep. So I like him yet again this week. Who are you low on?
I'd say I'm low on DeAndre Swift this week against the Cardinals. He's done a great job this year of fending off the competition I thought he had on this roster, but he's the clear lead back, dominates early down work. But the Bears team total is just around 21 this week, so slightly below league average this week. And Roschon Johnson was in at the goal line late in the game to vulture him. So and Swift's receiving usage went down. He only ran a route on 30% of Caleb's dropbacks, was staying into pass block a bit more. And Caleb himself, scrambled more. He had 10 rush attempts, so just less pass volume for the backs. And, Travis Homer return didn't really do anything, but I could see him maybe eating into some of Swift's passing down snaps as well. So I still like Swift, rest of season, but this week specifically that kind of caught my eye. So I'm a little bit lower than consensus on him. I have him RB23. So again, you're probably starting him if you have him, but just lower expectations this week is all.
Yeah, he's tricky to project because on the one hand, he's getting like bad touchdown luck. Like his expected touchdowns are pretty high, but then it's week 9 now. So it's how much does this continue? Because instead of giving Swift the ball at the goal line, they try to refrigerator Perry it. Then
what the hell is that?
I don't even want to talk about the game. But I was on the Bears. But they did that, and then Johnson was in yet again at the end of the game, and so I think Johnson actually it's even more worrisome because Homer probably would take some snaps from Johnson in the past game too, and Johnson's really not getting carries aside from the goal line. But I see what you're talking about with Swift. I still have him kind of right in that top 20 range, but I agree. Sure. It's frustrating that he's getting taken out at the goal line more than he should. And then there was other times where he would score earlier in the year, and then there would be a penalty, and then he would score again. There would be another penalty, and then they would just put Johnson in, and he would get the score, something stupid like that. So it's just been a frustrating year. But he did save his week last week with that long run. That was good.
What was worse, that Jenkins rush attempt or the Giants 2-point conversion try?
Oh, the Jenkins rush attempt by far.
Yeah,
because the Giants 2-point thing. Yeah, bro, you're trying to win a football game. It's not time to harken back to the 1980s. You know what I mean? Nobody cares about the 1985 Bears. I know it's the only thing you got, but come on, try to give your new fans something. Not that. You know what I mean?
That was just. How do you
stupid.
Not trust your running back to punch it in there, or Caleb something, anything but that?
They're not trusting the wrong people. The people that shouldn't be trusted would be people on the back end of that Hail Mary, not your running backs who have been carrying our offense these last few weeks. But I digress. I am low on Raheem Mostert, and this is more just a situation where I'm looking at this Dolphin backfield, and he's inside the top 30 in ECR. I think he's more of a kind of a fringe guy who prefers the RB4. Maybe a flex if you're in a deeper league, because HN is back. He's just receiver, runner. He's doing it all for them. He's their clear RB1. But I also just wonder, every week I feel like Jalen Wright pops on film, and so just kind of how HN started to pop off last year and slowly kind of get more work because we, everyone saw how good he was. I think that could happen at any moment, and I think it would hurt Mostert because HN has been too good. So Mostert's already kind of that RB2, does get some goal line here and there, but last week I know HN was in on a lot of the goal line reps too. So it's just kind of a very volatile situation. I'd rather kind of get ahead of it, especially road game at Buffalo for the guy who's not the real number one pass down back. 6.5 point underdog. This could be a down week for Mostert. All right, let's go to the running back prop, and I'm not gonna do the Dallas backfield. Don't worry.
Yeah.
That's just cruel. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, this is the one I want to do. So Rachaad White outscores Bucky Irving last week, but Bucky Irving was right there in terms of touches. I think he actually out-touched him. So let's for this week go rush and receiving yards. I'm gonna do a versus. Let's make White the favorite by 6.5.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were gonna make me bet on Rachaad White over Bucky Irving. Give me Bucky Irving plus 6.5. Yeah, that's a good line because this should be a trailing game script. So, White's going to get really involved in the pass game.
Yeah.
But Bucky Irving's a good pass catching back too. I think eventually he overtakes that as well. But that's a good line. And I have Rachaad White ranked higher than Bucky Irving in half PPR. So you had me worried there. But I think the line was high enough to take Bucky here. And so Sean Tucker's just kind of out of the rotation now. Is that what you're gathering?
I mean, I didn't see him, he kind of faded out. Yeah. More toward that other game, the Raven game, he kind of faded out. And then last week, he only got like 2-3 touches. So
yeah.
I think they were kind of trying to, he had a really good game. You can't, for, I guess, locker room morale, and just to be fair to the player, they were like, all right, we're going to keep it going. But I think that was never the plan, really, to have 3 unless he kept tearing it up. So, and White's playing really well too. I think the reduction in workload might have even helped him because he averaged 4.8 yards a carry on his 6 carries last week. I mean, that's a good. Rachaad White's hardly ever getting over 4 before this year, but last 4 weeks 4.9, 7.2, 4.0, 4.8. So he's starting to see a little bit more room. So yeah, I think it's definitely the White and Irving show. Going forward, and White seems to catch a touchdown or do something in the passing game every week, and I think that's going to continue just because the Bucks don't have their receiving core healthy right now either. But Bucky's definitely he's going to get some goal line looks, and he's stealing carries from White, so it's going to kind of be a toss up week to week, I think. All right, wide receiver, who you got in the top 5 for week 9?
Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, and Puka Nacua. Welcome back to my top 5.
Ooh, I got Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, and Jamar Chase. So I got Kupp and Nacua still right outside the top 5.
Yeah, because
they're both going to be a little healthier. So, but yeah, I could see Puka getting back in there by next week. So I might even join you. But there's a lot. If we're finally healthy, CeeDee Lamb's finally back on the same page with Prescott. So it's nice here at receiver. Finally getting some guys back. Tyreek, another one. All right. Who are you hiring at wide receiver?
Calvin Ridley. He finally broke out last week with the 10 catch, 143-yard game. I don't think he's going to maintain that type of, production. But, having Mason Rudolph, a functioning quarterback under center, has really helped. Plus, DeAndre Hopkins is gone now on the Chiefs. So, while he's still going to be a very volatile, high ceiling, low floor kind of guy, his stock is certainly up. And as of now, he's my wide receiver 18 to open the week. So back on the Ridley train here, at least for now. And then Jerry Jeudy is, a guy that I mentioned a few weeks ago as a guy that could start popping, with the potential Amari Cooper trade, Jameis Winston potentially taking over. And, that's happened. So his stock's up. Just unfortunately, he's been overshadowed by, Cedric Tillman's massive breakout. And, Elijah Moore and David Njoku have had good games as well. But just this entire offense gets left with Jameis Winston under center. So, Jerry Jeudy had a solid 5-catch, 79-yard game as well. So I think going forward, I think he's a guy that, we could certainly trust in spots, as a wide receiver flex option. And, this week, it's facing the Chargers, a tougher matchup, but he's still, inside my top 35. He's my wide receiver 35. So his needle's pointing up, and I'm high on him to open the week anyway.
Yeah, Jameis is a guy who's just gonna, he's gonna take some chances, and they still seem to be a pretty pass-heavy offense. They've just been this way, and that was what Dorsey was kind of known for in Buffalo. So yeah, there should be with Jameis just completely different offense. Kind of like the Falcons going from Smith to Smith to Robinson this year. So it's just like a different offense when Jameis is in there. High on a couple guys. First one, Chris Olave. I don't know why he's ranked outside the top 36 in ECR, but it must be because we're just early in the week or something. But he put up a good game last week, and he should get Derek Carr back this week. They're going against the Panthers. I know that's not a great game script game for wide receivers, but if you can catch 8 for $107 with Rattler and Jake Hayner, I think you deserve to be in starting lineups. And remember, the Saints don't really have other receivers. Rashid Shaheed was catching a lot of deep bombs, and what that does is it kind of limits the production of other receivers, because not only are you missing out on the yardage and the touchdown, but just the receptions of going down the field on drives. So a drive that might end in a touchdown either way, where a guy would get 2-3 catches on the drive, that goes out the window when your teammate catches a 60-yard bomb. So like Olave this week against the Panthers. And then Josh Downs is inside my top 20 with the Joe Flacco news. He's wide receiver 28 in ECR, so he's trending up for people, but just wanted to point him out because the games with Joe Flacco, he's caught 7 or more passes in each of them, whereas he had a good game with Richardson last week, 4 for 109 and a touchdown, but that's 4 catches. Imagine if he can get 7 or 8 catches and have that kind of production, which he is capable of. So I think Pittman's gonna be trending up too, but the thing about Pittman is he doesn't look quite right out there. So I still think the switch to Flacco is going to help Josh Downs the most, because he, at this point, it's kind of like a T.Y. Hilton, Reggie Wayne, I think it was, situation. Like, this is Josh Downs is the T.Y. overtaking, the veteran here. I think he's the number one Colts receiver going forward. So like Josh Downs this week and going forward. All right. Who are you low on at wide receiver?
Well, I'm low on Zay Flowers. The Ravens just added Diontae Johnson, and, he probably won't play a ton of snaps here, but either way, like, his presence on the field is going to take away, targets from Zay Flowers. And this isn't really a pass heavy offense to begin with, especially second half of the season. They have a lot of, easier games. They're going to be up a ton. So it's just not good news for Zay Flowers to have Diontae there. Plus, this is just, a tough matchup against the Broncos to boot. So Flowers is a guy that I was so high on like a couple weeks ago. He was like near my top 10 every week when I was doing like my initial run of projections. And now he's my wide receiver 26 to open the week. Might be even lower. I really haven't had a chance to really dive in on this. And that's just with Diontae playing like limited snaps. So Flowers is a guy that, this week I'm down on. And unfortunately, this trade will, impact his season-long value. So it just, going to ding him just enough to maybe drop him outside of the wide receiver 2 range. Maybe he's a high-end wide receiver 3 going forward. Either way, it just wasn't good for Flowers.
No, it's not good. I mean, he's playing well. He had he broke somebody's ankles on a route. Lamar actually missed him for a touchdown on it, but I mean, he does look good. But I agree. I think it's just tough to trust Ravens pass catchers week in, week out, because Lamar is so good that it's like he completes 10 balls sometimes, and that's all it takes with Henry also being there, and then they kind of look to close it out. So it's probably going to not be as consistent with Zay, but at least he gets some rush attempts. I hope that continues. All right, for me, it's Wan'Dale Robinson. I was low on him last week. I'm low on him again. I don't know why he's still inside the top 40 in ECR. With Neighbors back, he's just not getting enough depth on his targets. He's getting a decent amount of catches, and maybe that kind of allures people especially in full PPR. Like, okay, he's consistently getting 5 catches, but when they're for 30 yards and no touchdowns every week, how many more times do you have to kind of bang your head against the wall? I think Wandale is a guy who he's like Andrew Hawkins back in the day.
That's a good one.
I mean, it's like you might have a couple of weeks that kind of lure you in, but in reality he is 5'8", $180 underneath guy, and he's kind of playing. His numbers are going to reflect that. So last week, 5 for 30. The week before that, 6 for 23. The week before that, 5 for 50, which is a good game for him. But took 11 targets to get there. He hasn't had a catch of 10 yards or more in 3 of his last 4 games. I mean, that's kind of what you're dealing with here. 2 touchdowns on the year. Daniel Jones doesn't throw touchdowns at home, and the Giants are at home this week. So yeah, just not a good spot for Wando. All right, wide receiver prop, what you got?
Let's go Cedric Tillman. Total receiving yards over under 47.5 at home against the Chargers.
I'm at 46, so I'll go under. It's an uncomfortable under. I will say that.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy that's obviously got some chemistry with Jameis Winston, and I'm sure they built that because Jameis has been the backup. That's one thing I always talk about. When a lot of times you see these pairs go off because they've been working together on the second team, and that's what we're seeing. But yeah, I have it a little bit under that. It is a tougher matchup, and he might be a guy. I think he could still perform well in fantasy. Just get a touchdown or something. But as far as the yardage, I think it's going to be in the mid, just a little below that, mid 40. So I'll go under. All right, tight end top 5 week 9. Who you got?
I got Travis Kelce, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Jake Ferguson, and David Njoku.
I have so these are my raw dog first projections. David Njoku, number 1. Travis, David Njoku.
I love it. Yeah.
Number 1. Then Travis Kelce, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and Sam Laporta is back, baby. I know we only had the 1 touchdown. I think he could have had 2, but he had like 60% of their yards through the air. So I think it's good time to get back on the Laporta train here.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. K. Dotton's in neither of our top 5s, and he did nothing to warrant dropping out this week.
Yeah,
Jake Ferguson, you're out. Jake Ferguson, you're out. K. Dotton, you're in. K. Dotton's my tight end 4.
Yeah. He's K. Dotton's right there, but just watching that Bucs game, it seems like one of the things they're trying to do more of, and we saw it with the backfield too, is just spread it around. So I think there is a chance that K. Dotton is not like this every single week. Like he spoiled us these last few, but I think at some point he's going to be a little bit. But one I should say though, while we're on the subject, like Baker Mayfield, I would not be afraid to stream him in every matchup. I mean, this guy just keeps doing it. He's like another Jameis in a way, except he's doing it with like efficient underneath throws for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to put up numbers almost every week at this point. I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Who you high on at tight end this week?
Oh, I just shit on him, but Jake Ferguson, he's my tight end 4. ECR has him tight end 9. He's failed to clear 25 yards in back-to-back games now, but the underlying usage is still there. It's still amazing. Last week, he had an 83% routes run rate, 21% target rate, both very, very good for a tight end. So I wouldn't worry about him long-term or short-term. I think he's going to bounce back this week in what should be a shootout. It's the highest total of the week. I think it's up to 52.5 right now. The Cowboys versus Falcons. So plenty of, chances for touchdowns. And the Falcons, they've used zone at the second highest rate. CeeDee Lamb actually takes quite a bit of a hit against zone this year, and Ferguson's the one that benefits. So could be a blow-up game for Ferguson. So that's why, unfortunately, he's in my top 5 and K. Dotton isn't. But I'm very high in Ferguson this week.
I like it. It was good. It was good to see CD get on the same page with Dak, but we can't always expect it's one of those things where it's like, when a guy goes for, what do you go for, 50 and 2. Like when your teammate does that lowers everyone else's too. So if that comes back down to earth just a little bit, you get some good Ferguson production as well. For me, it's Taysom Hill. He is my tight end 10. He's the tight end 35 in ECR. This is just, people are just, I'm sure he'll be up higher by the end. But, again, this is a position where I still think, you're not going to get what you got last week from all these tight ends. But a guy like Taysom Hill, he just has this upside. And even though he didn't score like a touchdown, so he didn't put up a good fantasy outing last week, we got the usage we're looking for. He was in on 40% of the dropbacks. He had a run on 20% of the designed runs, and that was his first game back, and they got down. So I think if in a game like this against Carolina, where they'll probably be up, they can really kind of go to him more as a runner. And I think Kendre Miller, their backup running back, got injured, so I'm not sure if he's out, how long it is. I think he might be out for some time. If that's the case, we saw Taysom just kind of almost like he switched to running back to open the season with Miller out. So there were some carries that I think Miller was probably stealing away from that would have gone to Taysom. So that's something to monitor as well. But Taysom actually might climb a little more in my ranks if Kendre is out.
Where is he right now for you?
10, tight end 10.
Oh shit. Yeah, he's my tight end 21. Yeah, what is ECR doing? 35. Maybe they have similar like spreadsheet or bugs with like the passing yards, the receiving yards.
I don't know.
Weird, like where they're forgetting something. He did attempt the he got that 3-yard completion. So now I gotta add my passing projection for him. Wow, tight end 10. I love it. He's one of those guys where if he's on the like sit start cuss for you, just start him because it's the tight end position. You got to go for upside. Yeah,
and he this is Carolina too. So like I said, he's gonna get chances. He had 5 rushing attempts and a couple targets in the first meeting with Carolina. So yeah, that's what you're looking for. Who are you low on at tight end?
TJ Hawkinson, assuming he makes his debut this week, and I was hoping he would return Thursday night against the Rams, get his feet wet. We were anticipating like a 40 to 50% routes run rate. I just think that's going to be his usage in his first game. So unfortunately, that might be this week at home against the Colts. Would have been a great matchup. I just think it's tough to trust him until we do see a game under his belt. So he's my tight end 22. Again, if you're in a pinch and you have to use him, go for it. But I think it's going to take him maybe a game or two to kind of get his legs back under him, so to speak, and then we can fire him up as a tight end 1. So again, just wish he was able to make his debut last week so we would have a better idea. But again, I think with him, you got to be cautious if you can.
Yeah, it's always hard for me to get an idea of like where guys are because with Puka we heard I think he was going to play 50 to I forget what the quote was, and he kind of did that. So we have to kind of monitor. But I remember when Hawkinson got traded, I guess he was healthy then, but he played he got like 9 or 10 catches. So I'm scared to kind of be low on him. So yeah, I'm gonna wait until I get confirmation because maybe they just held him out because they wanted to have him like really like a full go as if there were no injury. So that's actually something to watch. Yeah, you could take a guy off the injury report completely, right? So if he's questionable still and then he plays, I think I would be low on him. But if it's like Friday and the final report comes out and he's off the injury report. Like Jonathan Taylor, that happened too. I think he came back. He was out like a few weeks, but they took him completely off, and he went completely off. So if that's the case, I think I would be higher on him.
I'm thinking about people that they obviously added him late in the draft. You probably already had a tight end. You were just going to stash him on the IR, and right now you have Dalton Kincaid as your tight end, and you have T.J. Hawkinson returning. Do you start him over Dalton Kincaid? Probably not. Tucker Kraft. Maybe that's the line in the sand. Would you start Hawkinson over Tucker Kraft if he's removed off the injury report, good to go, and we're assuming he might be playing, or are you going safe there?
Well, they're saying Jordan Love's not like he doesn't have a serious injury. But
maybe that's a bad example then.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to play, so I would probably start T. Jackson. But Kincaid, I think would be close.
Who?
Kincaid was probably a better example, and I think that's Kincaid is my tight end 12. So yeah, that probably is the line of stand. It's right there.
Okay.
So maybe not Kincaid, but Kraft, I'm a little lower on. That's actually the guy I'm low on, so I'll just talk about him.
Oh, shit.
Now.
Okay, there you go.
Because number one, I don't know how healthy Jordan Love is. But even if Jordan Love is healthy, we've seen him when he's not completely healthy, have some kind of shaky games, and you just kind of don't know where his health is at. And Kraft is competing with a full deck of these Green Bay receivers, which hasn't really happened every game. But more so than that, Detroit number 1 against tight ends in DVOA. So it's not an easy matchup, even though you kind of think of Detroit, you think high scoring game, but just a lot of factors kind of pointing away from Tucker Kraft this week. So this is the week I prefer to kind of play it safer and go in a different direction. Tight end prop. Let's see. Let's go with Mark Andrews since he's been tough to project every week. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So he's up to tight end 8 on the season too. I mean, yeah. Okay. So, let's go over under 12.5 in half PPR for Mark Andrews. AKA, does Mark Andrews finish as a top 12 tight end this week?
No. Obviously, I'll regret that. He's going to score a touchdown this week. But where do you have him ranked?
I have Mark Andrews ranked 11th.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I have him 18, so I'm a lot lower. But a guy that's ranked like in the 12 to 15 range, what I've found is like a 35% chance they finish in the top 15. Just tight end. It's so much volatility with just a touchdown can make a guy be a top 10 tight end. So you might have a guy like Johnny Munt, even with TJ Hawkinson back. Johnny Munt catches a 8-yard touchdown, and he's the tight end 8. So tight end is tough. Love the prop. I'll say over 12.5 end of week rank by Andrews. And I know I'm gonna pay for that dearly, but the numbers don't lie when it comes to these things.
No, I know that. I set the line more for the listeners because I know, their concern is
I'm trying to win,
because like a lot of people, every week have been saying, like he's still risky, and he is risky, but he did. The positive was he went up to a 74% route rate last week, which is really, kind of almost back to where he was in his heyday. So I think the arrow is pointing up. It's just now you're just worried about the. Does Baltimore, blow out Denver or something like that, or
like Diontae, or like Diontae mixing in more probably doesn't impact Andrews, but maybe less 2-3 tight end sets, so that could impact him too. Maybe not this week, but going forward. But yeah, I noticed that too. Andrews' routes run rate went up. I mean, he's still very, very good. So again, he's going to be a target in the red zone. So. Yeah, no, betting against Mark Andrews has been a losing proposition the last few weeks. Let's just put it that way.
All right, we'll see how it goes. That's going to do it. NFL Week 9 player projections here on the Fantasy Flex. Be sure to subscribe to the Fantasy Flex podcast so you don't miss an episode all season long. And be sure to check out fantasylabs.com. That's where we house all of our fantasy football content, DFS as well. You can use promo code FLEX40, that's FLEX40 for $40 off right now. And you can find Sean on X at @_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next pod, let's get this money.